This video is a continuation of the neuroanatomy series, where we explain Snell neuroanatomy book so that your self-study becomes easy. Today we are going to discuss how neurons respond to injury. How a neuron gets injured, what causes neuronal injury. What happens after a neuron gets injured, recovery of neurons following injury. What happens if the body of the neuron gets injured, and what happens if the nerve cell process gets injured. First of all, let's see what causes neuronal cell injury. Severe damage to the nerve cell body due to trauma, interference with the blood supply, or disease may result in the degeneration of the entire neuron. When a neuron dies in the central nervous system, it is engulfed by microglial cells. Microglia are neuroglial cells of the brain. In case you don't know about neuroglial cells, a video explaining all the neuroglial cells is present in the neuroanatomy playlist of this channel. And when a neuron dies in the peripheral nervous system, it is engulfed by the macrophages of the tissue, present in the peripheral nervous system. Spaces that are created after neuronal death in the CNS is filled by astrocytes that proliferate and fill that space. Astrocytes are also neuroglial cells of the brain. In the case of the peripheral nervous system, those spaces are filled by the proliferation of fibroblasts. That was what happens when an entire neuron cell dies, but if only the axon of the neuron, which all peripheral nerves mostly consist of, gets injured, for example, neuron gets a cut here. Degenerative changes will take place proximal to the site if injury, distal to the site if the injury, and can and cannot affect the cell body Y from which the axon arises. The distal process of the axon gets disconnected from the neuron cell body, and hence it is degenerated and gets engulfed. Unlike entire neuron death, it can regenerate. If for some reason it did not regenerate, then the space will be filled by astrocytes or fibroblasts. The changes in the proximal segment of the axon are similar to those that take place in the distal segment, but extend only proximally above the lesion as far as the first node of Ranvier. Changes in the nerve cell body. The changes that occur in the cell body following injury to its axon are referred to as retrograde degeneration. The nissl material becomes fine, granular, and dispersed throughout the cytoplasm, a process known as chromatolysis. Chromatolysis begins near the axon hillock and spreads to all parts of the cell body. In addition, the nucleus moves from its central location toward the periphery of the cell, and the cell body swells and becomes rounded. The degree of chromatolysis and the degree of swelling of the cell is greatest when the injury to the axon is close to the cell body. In some neurons, very severe damage to the axon close to the cell body may lead to the death of the neuron. This was all about the changes that take place in the neuron after it is injured. In the next video, we will learn how neuron recovers following the cell injury.